All right, Kamuzu, give me a countdown.
All right. Dati dana, dati dana, dati da.
Kya baat? Everybody, welcome to another episode of Absolute Focus. We had a great concert this week in Anaheim.
It was awesome, man. Anaheim, big
It
up.
was a quadrabandi. There was
Haven't done that before.
Kamuzu on santur, I was on tabla, and then we had Rajib on sitar.
Sitar.
He's a badass sitar player. We're gonna have him on the show.
Rockstar.
And we had Akash on bansuri. And we're like, thanks for everybody for coming out. It was a great show in Anaheim.
Man, that Tihai did. Man, that Tihai was sick.
Yeah, like it's funny you said that because
That one.
yeah,
Not the other one.
the one from the second
That
half.
one,
Yeah,
yeah.
I know the one in Jansamoni.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jan Samoni.
It's funny you say that because I went to the doctor the next day, and he was like, "You're fine, but this tihai, it's too sick." Right? And then I was like, "Is it okay?" He's like, "I gotta refer you to an oncologist. Like my tihai needs like a mammogram done
Because
I
it
don't
was
know
just
if it's
too
gonna.
sick.
I don't know if it's gonna make it. It was just too sick. It was too good.
It was a pretty good, that one was a pretty good Tihai.
Yeah.
Just too sick.
I don't know. One of these, like, I would love to play it for you guys, but like,
We need to give that Tihai some healthy.
it needs some like homeopathic medicine or whatever it's called. So, anyways, we have an amazing guest with us today. He is, well, first off, he's a fellow Inder.
Oh,
right?
yes. I had
Just
a fellow
This
Jeet.
is an Inder.
Now it's the Indus turn.
Yeah, like last time you had a Jeet, and like, I don't know what you guys won. You didn't win. You didn't win anything.
We win everything. That's why we have Jeet.
But
in
today
our
we
name.
have a special Inder with us, right? Let me tell you, like, he's able to walk in two different worlds, okay? There's the classical world, which, we're a bit uppity, okay? We don't let everyone in.
We're a bit jumpy.
And then he can walk, like, in sort of a world where the pop world, the hip-hop world, like, he can walk all these different worlds. I don't know how he does it, but
Must be with that
we're gonna get into
fantastic
that.
bag he wears.
we're going to get into that. But we're really honored and thrilled to have Raaginder Singh Swami on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How you doing, man? Like, you're such a talented violinist. Like, we're fans of yours. Like, you play with feeling, right? It's not just notes. It's got like expression and feeling behind it. Your soch is like you try to
Thought
find
process.
new reste
Soch.
in the rags. You know what I mean? Like new paths.
Yeah.
Like it's a thrill to have you here.
Don't forget the Tiari.
Oh, the Tiari, of course. Yeah. The Tiari is there, man. And I know that you're about to leave to India,
Yes.
and you have something big happening.
Oh my goodness.
in
Please
India.
tell us.
Oh man. Yeah. So I'm performing at the Har Vallabh Sangeet Sammelan.
What? That's the oldest festival in India, by the way.
Yeah.
In Punjab. Big up the Punjab.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I'm quite nervous. It's something that like my parents have pressured me to do ever since I was a kid.
Oh, really?
Like we want you to perform at Har Vallabh. That's like our dream for you. So it's finally happening, which is great. But it's also like, yo, holy shit,
Daunting.
it's here.
Absolutely.
And
What day are you playing? Do you know the date? It's wicked.
I'm playing the opening night. I'm going last.
Last. Oh my God.
that's a
Last spot.
that's a tough slot. You got to close the night
Super
out.
tough. Yeah.
Better be practicing.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Raaginder is gonna close the night out. Like,
Damn right.
He's gonna destroy that.
He's
place.
going to destroy.
All right. I mean, we really wish you the best. There, like
Yeah.
we're rooting for you, man.
Thank you, man.
It's awesome. So why don't you tell us, like, you're born into a musical family? Is that true?
Yes.
So tell us about like your parents and how you got into this world.
So I don't even remember like at what age like music was like given to me. My grandparents from my dad's side, my dadaji, he was also a musician. He was a ragi at a gurdwara, and he learned from Bhai Jwala Singh at the same time Bhai Avtar Singh was learning from Bhai Jwala Singh. So
Oh, wow.
my grandfather comes from a Gurmat Sangeet background, and then came along my dad and his brothers. Out of my dad and his brothers, my father and his younger brother are the musicians in the family. My dad pursued it. He did higher education. He did his master's in sitar. and he learned from S.K. Datta, who's a student of Pandit Ravi Shankar.
Oh wow.
And fast forward, my dad got married to my mom, who's also a vocalist. She doesn't come from a musical background, but she decided that this was something she wanted to do in her life. And I was born, and from the beginning of my life, I just remember being surrounded by music. In the beginning, I started off with vocal, then I moved to tabla, then I did a little bit of drums, and then I finally got to violin.
Perfect foundation, actually.
Yeah, you get the
Your
vocals, you
leg,
get the
yeah.
rhythm, and kind of built that foundation.
Absolutely.
And
You can see it come through when you're playing.
yeah, and it's just, having parents that understand that helps that a lot, because when you're going through it at that age, you don't realize
Yeah.
I'm just doing this just because I'm doing it. But then by the time I was 11, I had a good understanding of what tal is, and I was decent at rag. And then once I started violin and learning Indian classical, that's when like my understanding of rag grew more.
Right. And then do you have like, so I mean, you by Jwala Singh, like you have like sort of that talim as well, like all the Sikh rags that aren't really that popular today, but they're part of our heritage. Like is that something that you've learned and studied?
So growing up, I did kirtan. I learned from my parents. They made it an integral part of my life, as well as my older sister. We used to sit down and do kirtan together.
Wow.
And a lot of the compositions that were taught to me were actually my parents' compositions, but there were some compositions that my dad taught me that were part of Bhai Jwala Singh's compositions, or something that my grandfather also created. So I had an interesting mix because my parents they are huge fans of Indian classical music.
Right.
So that also came through within the kirtan that they taught me, or even the bandishes that they taught me. So it wasn't just Gurmat Sangeet, but it was a little bit of everything.
Yeah. And do you use sort of I feel like Indian classical music, I feel, is always sort of changing and evolving and progressing, sort of like, what anybody that's ever been successful has brought something new to the
Innovated,
table.
yeah, in the
They
field.
don't, it's not just, I'm playing the stuff that's old. They brought something new, they made it their own. They twisted it, they turned it, and they created something brand new. But then sometimes in the other side of the coin is that you want to preserve the history as well.
Yeah.
Right. So like there's a lot of people in the Sikh faith that like say the kirtan should be done in this rag way, and the rag shri used to be sung in this way, and where today it may be a little more modern. So do you ever like try to balance those two, or is there one that you're leaning towards more stronger? Or
I do think preservation is important.
yeah.
But I think the overlying thing is that evolution is going to happen no matter what.
Yeah.
In every aspect of human life, there's always been evolution in every single subject. So it's bound to happen in music as well. And, there's always going to be this push and pull about we need to preserve the history. But music is not going to move forward unless it evolves with the times. And I'm actually a believer in pushing things forward and bringing in new things.
Yeah.
And, bringing things that are also relevant to the times as well, because those things are what carries the music forward and brings relevance to the current time. And that will in tune brings more listeners to what's happening as well.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we feel the same way. We're always trying to push and
Yeah, because we don't want this art form to die, and we need more and more listeners. It's not an uppity, stuffy subject. We just need to educate people that it's just music. Music is universal.
yeah. And luckily, like our teachers have always told us, like both of our teachers, is that you have to make you have to innovate. You have to make your own. Like, don't do what I did. I've already done it.
Yeah,
You can't do it as good as me because you're not me. So do what you're good at.
Yeah, do what you're gonna do.
exactly.
So which is the mark of a great teacher. So we're on. But you also like I was saying earlier, you have your feet in different worlds. So like one of them is hip hop. So how did that come about?
So initially I was born in Thailand, and in Thailand I grew up primarily listening to either it was Indian classical music, kirtan. Outside of that, it was Bollywood, and it was American pop music. So I wasn't really introduced to hip hop at all until I moved to the United States. And I was like about 8 years old at that time. And instantly when I heard it, like I fell in love with it. I was like, I really resonate with this music. And growing up, like I listened to hip hop more than anything else.
So what was it in the hip hop? Was it like, were you listening to the lyrics or were you listening to the music part of it? So here, let me give you my background is
You don't hear words at
I don't
all.
hear lyrics.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was because I was raised like listening to Indian classical music, and then also like Ustad Medyasin concept was a big influence in my life. Like I got to spend a lot of time with him, and like went to a lot of private mehfils. I got to hear him practice. I got to hear him like talk about ragdari and compositions and how to create stuff. And so everything he's saying ghazals in Urdu, which
Yeah.
I speak zero of. So like as I'm growing up as a child, like my brain just phased that part out, and I'm only hearing like what the guitars are doing, what the flute is doing, what chord progressions there are.
Well,
Like
he's actually the
I've
music that he's
so then when I listen to hip hop, I hear
That's
like
what happens.
I hear that happens to me. Like somebody
Yeah.
has to say, "Hey, did you hear that?" And I gotta like rewind it, and then
Yeah.
so that happens to me. Like I'll hear like like I hear lakari,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like and then there's like certain hip hop artists that we like. I'm not a hip hop connoisseur, obviously, but like Eminem is somebody that we gravitate towards because like I hear that lakari so like pakka.
Yeah.
So what were you listening to, and like what hit your ear?
Which
Initially, it was the beat.
Okay.
I'm very similar in that sense because I play instrumental music.
Yeah.
And my ear was always drawn to the beats and the music that's going on. And initially, what made me fall in love with it was the beats because I haven't heard anything like that to that point in my life.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, this is so lively. It's full of energy. There's like a certain rawness to it. And that's what captivated me. And as I started getting more into the music, then I started paying attention to the lyrics. And now like I have a pretty balanced way of how I listen to it.
Yeah.
But primarily the beats is still what sticks out to me because I really love the production and all the production value that goes into hip hop.
Yeah, and like the tracks that we hear of yours, like we can sort of see that hip hop
Yeah.
definitely is an influence.
Yeah.
We should
should actually listen to one,
let's
yeah?
listen to one right now. Let's listen
Let's
to Rise,
listen to Rise.
which it's a wonderful track, and maybe afterwards you can sort of talk about. But to me, I see a very strong hip hop influence in it. So here's Rise, and we're back. That was Rise. Yeah, so like the hip hop influence is definitely strong. Like, but the strings are beautiful. The violin is beautiful. Like,
Soaring over the top.
talk us through how you like. What's your
process?
What's your process? Like, how'd you make this?
So my process really differs from each track. I don't have like one go-to thing that I do.
Yeah.
So this beat I actually made the first day of 2018. Like I was like, I want to make something just, to start the year out fresh. And I just made the beat just kind of vibing off with whatever I was feeling at the moment. And I didn't open the beat up for like 3-4 months. Like I didn't even touch it.
Yeah.
And next time I heard the beat, I was like, I should drop some violins on this. And so the way it's structured now wasn't the way it was structured before. So once I have a beat, what I start doing is I record and then I'll just pretty much improvise over the whole beat and pick out sections that I like and then start to structure it in a way. And from there, it turns into more of a song. And then after that, it's just mixing, mastering, and making sure the drums hit hard, making sure the 808s sound good, and just that the violin blends in well with the beat. And
Yeah.
So what are the strings like? Are they MIDI strings or are they like live strings? What?
they're live. So I actually have a Neumann mic, and I just record on that running through a preamp.
Oh, and then you record layers.
Yes. This one was some parts were layers and some parts weren't layers. So it just depends on the track. Some tracks are very orchestral and they'll have like 10, 15 layers. Some tracks are just one thing.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. And then what sort of production software are you using, or like what's your studio like?
So I use Ableton Live, and I love it. uh, I run a bunch of VSTs. I like using a lot of samples, um, and just seeing what I can do with it. I try to manipulate sounds and piece them together. So with this one, there was like a chord progression loop, and then I just basically took that loop, I pitched it down, and then I warped the time and made it kind of fit in the time signature that I wanted to fit in.
Oh, nice.
And then I messed with the sound and I added like some overtones, all that kind of stuff. And then I basically put the violin over it and just tried to see whatever sounded good over it. And once I got it, then went on with it.
So you can like, you feel happy then?
Is anyone?
So
ever
here's
happy?
like our process is we're just like, this is not right, and then like stuff doesn't get done. But is that like how
You're
do you get to
lazy, man.
yeah? How do you get to that point where you're like, you know what, this is good?
No, I definitely feel that because there's a lot of stuff that I have that isn't done.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a process. I think part of it is also letting go
Yeah.
and letting it out into the world, even if it's not perfect.
Yeah.
I think, especially being Indian classical musicians, there's always this sense of, you know, what you have to do has to be pristine, it has to be perfect because
You're
the
representing your gurus and
exactly.
Big
and
shoulders we
and the
have.
people that came before us were like masters at what they do, you know? So there's always that thing of, hey, I want to create like the perfect product. But at the same time, a lot of those things, when you try to do that, what's happened to me was I would spend so much time on one song and 3 months go by and I'm like, whoa, I haven't dropped anything.
yeah.
So I think, especially in today's day and age, output is important, and it's
Yeah.
part of the process. You know, people will see that growth as if your projects keep on improving over time, and they have that quality. Each of them carries a specific sound that is consistent to you. People will like seeing that growth.
Yeah, I mean the issue that we have is like we're good at the external projects we get, like you know,
we
like,
can nail them.
Yeah, like because there's
can
deadlines
focus.
associated with them.
Yeah.
Right, like so they'll be like, we need you to do music for this scene in this documentary, and it needs to be done in 2 weeks, and that gets done, and we're like, you know, there's session work that comes in that gets done
Yeah.
because it's not ours, even though it is ours.
Yeah.
But then when it's our stuff, like we just sit on it forever and ever and ever. But and I know exactly what you're saying, that like it's just let it out in the world and then like make the next one better, and then you'll
Yeah.
have that growth. It's just
We really
tough
need
sometimes,
to,
man.
We really need to do that.
Yeah. But that's the thing, right? When you hold the power, when the ball's in your court,
Yeah.
you know, you can tend to hold things longer than what you need to do.
Then you should.
And yeah, I was the same thing at one point where when someone else would hit me up for a collaboration, I'll get it done in a couple of days. But my tracks would be sitting there and they'll
Yeah.
be just like in the dust, like gaining dust and everything. But yeah, I definitely feel that.
Yeah. And then so when you were talking about like making, like you did the time warp, you did the VSTs and all that. This is not Indian classical training.
Nope.
Like where did this come from?
I always, because I loved hip hop, like
Yeah.
I've always wanted to make hip hop beats. Like that has been something I've been doing since I was in high school, like 9th grade. Like I got Fruity Loops back then. I used to make beats.
Fruity Loops.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is one of the hottest softwares now. Like I remember back then, it used to be like, oh, it's just a beginner thing, and now like every song on the radio is made on Fruity Loops,
Yeah.
which is
Wow.
like craziest thing ever. But yeah, I started on Fruity Loops. I'd made a lot of these like loop kind of beats. They were very simple back then, and then once I got into college, I took audio recording classes, basically learning how to mix, learning how to produce. And then after that, it was just my own journey. I pretty much taught myself to hear frequencies, to learn how to mix. And all that just came from me just trying to do more projects
Yeah.
and just gaining from that experience. And each project helped me learn something new. And then I applied that to the next project and so on forth.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, she's really good in the studio.
I used to be. Then I had children. Dude, I don't even know what day it is.
But yeah, it's something that she's like. Some people just have like a natural instinct for it, and
I
then
find
you
it
pick
so
up.
much fun because there's no like
Yeah,
Indian
you
classical.
watch this YouTube
thing in
video
your
and
head.
you take like this online course and then your Indian classical training obviously is there like musically, right? But yeah, it's something that's like it's necessary in this new world.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to be able to, you know, be a jack of all trades. I think
Yeah,
just the fact that everyone is running their own thing nowadays, you know, and the more you can do nowadays, the better it is for you. Especially with recording as a musician, like everyone has a studio set up now in their home. And if you can really maximize that output, I think it's great for you and for your career.
you gotta maximize their output.
Yeah, but another side of being like super into like the tech side is you can become lost in that side too.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh, the compression doesn't sound good.
Well, like that with like mathematics.
Yeah, it is math in some sense where you have to like deal with the volume, make sure everything's mixed properly, and then you go listen to it in the car. You're like, oh man, that didn't sound
Dude,
good.
the
Oh my
car
gosh.
mix is the most important test of all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got the headphone mix, you got the monitor mix, you got the Bose mix, you got the car mix.
Yeah.
You got to check all those places
Yeah,
out.
you do.
Exactly. I remember like my EP, one of the tracks I had 25 versions of this like mix. So like after it got to like version 25, I was like, I want to kill myself.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't think we've ever got to 25.
I think we've got to 6.
Yeah. No, like we've gotten to 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So then on the flip side of this coin, we've been talking about the hip side. Like, so what's going on in your classical life, like during this sort of youthful time?
So classical is something that has stuck with me ever since I was a kid, and that just never stops. I think for me, that's more of a lifetime journey.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just getting that practice in, just getting deeper into the music. I think that's what it's about for me when it comes to classical music.
Do you have like a Riaz routine, or is it just whenever you feel it?
I try to
that itch?
practice every day. It's not like I wake up in the morning and do it every day. Sometimes if I have time in the morning, I'll do it, or like it'll be in the evening. Most times I do it in the evening, but the daily Riaz is something I definitely strive for, just because I think this music is much deeper than just performing it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That
So
sometimes
we were talking about that.
stops
With,
your growth if you perform too much, I think.
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
We were talking about that with Geis. Is that like is that Riaz isn't
It's not practice.
Riaz isn't practice. That's just one aspect of it.
Yeah.
Like there's a growth aspect and a meditation aspect and
Yeah.
a learning aspect and a analysis and introspection aspect. Like Riaz is a big word.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you do that every day. So what like do you like what sort of it's just whatever you're feeling, or do you try to do? Is there always a technical portion and then there's always a ragdari portion, or?
Well, my practice sessions I start with like a warm up, just so like my muscles like get relaxed,
Yeah.
and then it just depends. Sometimes I feel like going over like the lessons that I've learned, old lessons. Sometimes I'll go back to the old lessons.
When you revisit old lessons, you find new things.
Yeah, exactly. And other than that, I try to. Sometimes I'll create my own compositions, or I'll dive deeper into a rag and see what kind of things I can create, what combinations that I can find that I haven't found before.
Yeah.
Or sometimes just play the compositions, because within the compositions, there's so many things that, are hidden when you initially learn them, and then when you go over them, you'll find something new, and the next time you go over them, you'll find something new again.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's like just in the gut.
Yeah, you can play like
The
that
whole
so many different types.
You can play it so many different types, but like the gut is like a map
Yeah.
to the
The
rag.
rag.
Yeah.
Like especially
The
these
key.
old school ones that
Yeah.
like
It's the absolute
it's-
key to
it's-
opening
it's a
every
key.
phrase of the rag.
Yeah.
yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it's all about paying attention to those little details within the gut. And like my Guruji said it so many times, where you don't need to do all the improvisation. Sometimes just play the gut out, and all the answers are within the gut.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's crazy that like our gurus and ustads, like they
Don't
give you
say
these little things of wisdoms, and then
one-liners.
sometimes they don't click for like years later.
Yeah.
But they do. They
Yeah.
do click, and then like they said something, and it just opens up your vision in some way.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So like, are you performing? Like, has performance been like a part of your upbringing? Like, have you been performing throughout your upbringing, or just?
Pretty much. Like when I was a kid, when I did vocals, I used to sing in like the gurdwaras. I used to sing in like some student functions we used to have, and same with tablas. We used to like do tabla ensembles like with the gurdwara kids who would play tabla, or I used to accompany my parents when they used to perform kirtan or songs. And violin, that was like performing from a very early standpoint. Just 6 months after I started learning violin, I did a solo concert.
Yeah.
So performing is something that I've been doing since I was a kid, and it's kind of felt natural to me. It's nothing that I felt like I need to really, really prepare for. It's just one of those things that's part of the process. And as long as the practice keeps up, that's that's one part of the process. Performing is not a part of the process, and there's many other things that are also a part of the process.
Yeah. Performance is like one of, it's where you grow the most.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's where
Falling flat
when
on
you
your
fall
face.
flat on your face in front of everyone and then learn how
That
to
makes
get
you
up with a
learn real
smile on your
quick.
face.
Yeah. I think the worst performances are the ones you learn the most from.
Yeah. They either make you or break you.
Yeah.
That mental practice really comes into play then to keep yourself afloat.
Yeah. No, it does.
So speaking of performance, you had like, so the track we heard, Rise, was sort of like in studio, sort of produced. But there's another track of yours that we really like. It's in Natbaro.
Yeah.
Or Natbarav,
Yeah.
Yep. Depending on your accent.
depending on the accent. Mine is Baro. Your guys' is Barav.
All right.
You like, so that kind of is that was a performance, right? That wasn't a recording, so to say. It was a performance.
Yeah.
And I maybe after let's listen to that, and then we'll talk about like sort of what the difference is between working in the studio and sort of working like on a performance. So let's listen to Raaginder playing Raaginder battle with a great tabla player, Salar Nader. Here it is.
Here it is.
All right, and we're back. That was Rag Natbaro or Natbarav. I really enjoy that rag. And then Salar did an amazing job on Sangat. He was following like sort of the intricacies you were doing, like with your lakari. He was like,
Yeah.
he was
He
right
was right
along
there,
with you,
yeah.
which
Yeah.
is like, I love that style of music. Like, I think keeping tikkas.
I hate simple tikka.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I don't like when the tabla player just plays siddhar tikka.
No, it's so much more immersive when the tabla player plays with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it adds to the whole experience.
And then there's a little
Absolutely.
bit of danger factor, a little
There is
risk there.
danger
Yeah.
You're like,
Oh my
are
God,
we
are we gonna
both keeping
land?
the same sum?
Yeah. But that's what makes it
But
fun.
that's what makes it fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But that was a great piece, and then the liveness of it, like the fact that you guys just played it,
It came through.
and it came through, right? That
And
it's
a
not
big-
like you laid your track down, then he laid his track down. It's
Yeah, it was
there's
really
the
good energy.
togetherness. So
Yeah.
so where was that recorded?
I was in San Francisco at one of my friend's apartments, and it was his last day of the lease. And we decided to go in and record that exact day.
Yeah, everybody that like you guys heard the track now, but you guys should check it out on YouTube because there's an amazing video to it too, and the visuals were great. So like, what inspired those visuals?
So I've had this vision for a while, for the past couple of years, where I wanted to create an Indian classical project, but add like a modern vibe to it, visually.
Yeah.
But still keep the music pretty traditional, but also keep it short and concise. And I wanted to package it in a way where it's easy to watch and interactive to watch. So took a couple of years, but it is one of those things where everything has to fall in the right place. And we shot it in March, and it just happened. Everything just happened to come together. And then the videographer, Salar, the department, everyone was there, and just kind of happened from there. And we just did it. Most of these, we did like 2 takes of each gut, and then we just picked out which was the best take.
Yeah, that's the way you do it, man.
Yeah.
And it came out great.
Yeah, I love it. The berry was a great rag.
So like, I mean, let's talk a little bit, maybe a little technical.
Yeah.
Like when you like sort of launch off into your thons or whatever, and like Solarbai is not giving you Teka, like what are you feeling in your head, or is it in your heart?
What do you see, or what do you feel?
Well,
Layer-wise.
with Salar, like I'm like so comfortable with him that like I know he's gonna show me where I am, but at the same time, if he's adding to what I'm playing,
Yeah.
like because of me playing tabla when I was younger, I just kind of have a mental tintal going in my head.
Yeah.
So I kind of just feel it. There's some tals where I can do that better than others.
Yeah.
Like tintal, I just have like a little clicker in my head going, so I know where I am. But like say Damar, I don't have that going in my head.
I don't have that in the mar either.
So it just depends, right, on tal from tal. But and I feel like the way like in this recording specifically how Salar was playing, like he still gave me.
Yeah, he's giving you hints.
He's giving me hints where tintal is, right? He'll give like da. If he plays like something, then da, then da, and like he'll give me that.
Yeah.
He'll give me that last beat just to know where I am in the cycle. So those things help. It's always great to have a great accompanist, and then for me, I just kind of sometimes I just go off and just keep on going until I find my way back.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah, that's the best way.
Yeah.
Because if you fix it, or like you're counting,
You
or
can totally tell.
we can feel that.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel natural. It doesn't. So like, and this is like as young musicians, in the Indian classical sense, we're young, right?
Yeah.
I think we don't hit our prime until
But
we're
you-
63, I think. And
I think 64.
yeah, it might be 64. Like that's the goal, right? Like you want to just be free,
Yeah.
just whatever.
What's the word? Almond.
Ahmed, Rudari.
Yeah.
Like these are all things that like just you want to be able to whatever comes, like leave yourself completely open for new inspiration to come in, and then just let it come out of you.
Yeah.
And just execute it perfect. So it's like it's something that we're all trying for, and
Takes a lifetime.
some days it takes many lifetimes probably.
Yeah.
Who knows where
Yeah.
we were before this?
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
But yeah, that was a great piece.
So do you have any rags that you gravitate to? Any bunch?
Not when I'm practicing, more when I'm performing. Performing, I usually perform the things I'm most comfortable with. But there are some rags that I particularly like playing more. I really enjoy playing Bhim Balasi.
Okay.
I like playing Kirvani. Puriya Kalyan is a nice one. Madhuvanti. Basically like the popular rags. I like them all.
The afternoon ones, which you don't often get to play.
I like Barddeep a lot.
Let's do the afternoon
Bharti
ones.
is
Then.
nice, yeah.
Barddeep's a nice rag.
Yeah.
Multani.
Number 4.
Yeah, Multani's that's a good afternoon one.
Yeah.
Sarangs, all the sarangs are pretty good. Yeah. And then mornings always get overshadowed.
I know, we need more morning concerts.
Yeah.
It's the ones that we don't get to, because it's such a beautiful morning rag. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
I think as 6 though, like we do have a bit of an advantage in that, like
We do
we do
the
get to hear
morning
them like
prayers,
when you go to Asidiwar, like,
Yeah.
and then especially some of like there's amazing ragis out there, but some of them like you get a nice like you'll go to an Asidiwar and you're like, oh, they did Patiyar, they did Tordi, they did Gunkali, right? Like you get a whole
the
spectrum
the
of
sunrise to
morning.
when the sun comes.
Yeah,
All of them get
Lalit,
up.
like you get all those morning ones.
Yeah.
Um,
You'd better.
but yeah, I do wish that there was more concerts.
Yeah, we need to.
Beragi.
Oh,
is
hi.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Maybe when we start our series back up,
Maybe we should get some
the
morning
ones.
ones done.
Yeah. I actually had a concert in India 2-3 years back, and it was a morning, and I was like, wow, like I haven't done a morning concert in such a long time. So
Yeah. I don't think I've ever done one. What did you play?
Basant Mukhari.
Oh,
Yeah.
gangster.
Yeah. Not many times, you don't get the chance too much, so I had to pop
So
it
you went
out.
for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's your like Ragdari Talim, like how does the rag, like how are you taught the rags?
So my Guruji, it's interesting that you bring
By the
this
way,
up.
let everybody know who your
So my
Guruji is.
Guruji is Dr. Sister Kanadhar Chaudhary. She is like one of the greatest Indian classical violin players. I think just greatest violin players in general. She, I think, is the first woman in India to play North Indian classical violin.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's like I think 81 right now, and she learned from Pandit Viji Jog, like when she started with him, and then she learned from Khan Sahib for like 35 years.
Wow.
So
I got to
if-
meet Pandit Vijay Jog a few times.
Did you?
Saji did some concerts with him in California, yeah. So I got to go to those.
nice,
Yeah.
nice.
I was 9, 10 at the time.
Wow. Yeah, and if you listen to both of their styles, like even though Pandit Viji Jog learned from Alauddin Khan Sahib, their Ali Akbar Khan Sahib and Pandit Viji Jog, their like styles are very different. So
Yeah.
she kind of got
She got a bit of both.
a bit of both, which was great. And I think throughout the course of her career, I think she had different stages. So like I've seen some of her students that are performing now, and they play way differently than I play.
Yeah, yeah.
Because when I was learning from her, she was a little older. She was in her 60s when I first started learning from her. And I think she kind of slowed down from all the pizzazz and like the faster stuff. So most of my talim, especially when it comes to Ragdari, we would sit there in class for 3-4 hours and we would just play alap.
Wow.
And she would literally say, she like, the other stuff doesn't matter if your alap isn't good.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It's the hardest thing to play.
it is though, and it's the first impression.
Yeah.
So I remember for 2-3 years straight, like most of my classes for a 2-3 year span were just alaps.
Wow.
And at that time, I didn't realize. I was like, man, come on, I want to play like a
It's
god.
so boring.
But you come to this point, and you're like, wow, like those things help a lot.
Absolutely.
And so, and just an understanding of the rag is made through from the alap. It comes from, everything comes from the alap. And I'm like glad that she really dug deep into that and taught me that. And then now I'm learning from Ashish Khan Saab, and his style's a little different. He likes to do a lot of like lakaris and all that kind of stuff. So he's teaching me Ragdari in a very different manner, but it's in a manner that I enjoy as well. And he likes to teach things in a non-linear way. When he's giving me a tan, like it's jumping from like high re to like
To Loga.
loga, and like it's like crazy tans. But then or he'll give me something in like
That's that spicy stuff I like.
The masala.
exactly
the
like
masala.
11.5, 8.5, that kind of stuff. He's like, you already know teen tal, you know jhaptal, like there's no point on me teaching you that. So it's just expanding the growth of the music, right? Like, and I'm glad that he's recognized that, I have had this training from my Guruji, and what's the next step, and what can I do to further that?
As opposed to starting from scratch.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's a sign of a great guru.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was going to be my next question, is like where did the rhythm side come from? So is it mostly from Ashish Khan Sahib?
No, actually, the rhythm side was from her too.
Oh, okay.
Because she learned from Ali Akbar Khan Sahib, he's a sarod player, and a lot of the techniques that she taught me were actually sarod techniques or sitar techniques. And Ustad Alauddin Khan Sahib, he before playing sarod, he used to be a violin player. And so a lot of the things that he played on the violin, he carried on to the sarod, and vice versa. And so growing up, when Ali Akbar Khan Sahib saw all that, I think he also came through an understanding of how that instrument worked. So Khan Sahib had a really great understanding of the violin. So when he taught my Guruji, he knew what the instrument can do, and basically different bowing patterns, plucking, what can you bring to the violin that hasn't been brought to, and basically my Guruji learned all that, and then she passed it on
so
to
I
me.
noticed like you and Kamalji recorded something today that you were using is it your pinky, and then you use like you pluck the string,
Like a
and it's kind of
chikari.
like a chikari.
Yeah, exactly. And
Okay.
that's straight out of a sarod or a sitar.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like those techniques, you know, it really helped me not just be like a violin player who plays like gaiki because most violin players play that because a violin really easily translates to gaiki So,
Right.
but my Guruji also gave me a lot of the vadan techniques on the violin as well.
That's awesome.
That's really cool.
So is there so there are other violin players in India, and like you said, the I think it was primarily more in the south.
Mm-hmm.
So are there so like in tabla like there's gharanas and like different schools of thought like is it something similar in violin or is the North Indian tradition still a bit too new for that?
There are gharanas, but I think violin's one of those instruments in North India where um, it's not as commonly played as it is in the South.
Yeah.
But the gharana thing still exists. Like, you know, some violin players learn from one gharana, some violin players learn from the other gharana. But I think nowadays that kind of stuff doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Like what gharana you learn from, because the essence of the music is same. It's just like the techniques and like the compositions and all that kind of stuff. But the overall essence of the music, it's all saying the same thing and just different languages and
Right,
how to
right.
do it.
But I was just trying to get to like I mean who's another like Kala Ramnath ji. Like, you know, is it a completely different technique? And I can't name anybody else right now, but that's
I don't
somebody
really
who's
know many
Yeah,
violin players, to be honest.
but you know, like when a tabla player hits na, I'll tell you whether he's like there's no tal yet, there's no composition yet, there's nothing's happened yet. He's hit na
the
or ta.
tone.
I can tell you if he's Swapanji student, if he's an Indoji student, if he's Zakarji student, if he's Dariji student, like or he's a Banaras student. Like you can just get that from that. So like, is there sort of a specific voice in violin that you kind of know or? Because I think that has also happened over time, right? Like we've had hundreds of years,
Yeah.
whereas the violin in sort of the Indian realm, North Indian
Context,
realm, is
yeah.
new.
Yeah. I don't know if that exists within
Yeah.
violin, to be honest. There are shades of the gharana where you can recognize, oh, this person is playing something from this gharana melodically,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But as far as like just the violin technique and like how a person plays the violin, I don't think.
So the only one I can think, so like he's from the south, like Dr. Subramaniam. I can sort of tell when it's him,
As opposed to all the others.
as opposed to like as opposed to another one. But it's just a certain sound. But then I don't know if that's like a gharana or
I
if
don't know
it's
if that's
because of
a
a
gharana
technique
thing or the
or
actual
his
individual.
instrument.
Yeah, I think it might be the individual. I think within violin, it's more of the individual sound because I think it's one of those instruments where there's just so much you can do with it, and each player has their own unique sound. Like if you listen to N Rajam, like you can tell there's something very N Rajam about the way she plays it. Or Kala Ramnath has a very specific style to her playing. Same with El Shankar, El Subramaniam.
Yeah.
Like they have very distinct styles. I think because it's a very versatile instrument, like you can't really like put it into one type of genre or like gharana.
So when you're like let's compare it like from the West, like how do you differ from like a Western violinist? Is there a tuning difference? Is there a positioning difference?
There is a tuning difference, but within the Indian classical tradition, there's not a set tradition of tuning. Some violin players in the Indian classical tradition actually tune to like the Western notations where it's G, D, A, E. And some of them actually just do what I do, it's basa, basa.
Yeah.
And some people do mapa, sa, re, which is that's actually the
Western one.
the Western tuning, yeah. There's no set way of doing it. Some people hold the bow differently too.
Yeah.
I try to bring in things from the Western because I also learned Western violin growing up. Right. So like I'll bring in vibrato in my playing, and then just some motives that I kind of play have a little bit of Western influence in them.
Yeah.
But then the biggest difference is obviously the music, like the Western music,
course.
and then like the Indian classical.
So vibrato, like I feel that it's I mean, maybe because I'm Indian. I feel it's way overused in the West. What's the reasoning behind?
I don't know. I think it might just be because.
Because to me, it's like it creates a bechanness.
Oh,
Right,
okay.
like it's just like, can you just get to saw? Like they're just going like it's just shaking all the time.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, maybe like I'm asking like as an ignorant person, like I
Yeah.
don't know the answer, right? Because I've only been exposed to the Indian side.
Yeah.
So then when I hear them, I feel bechani, right? Like
I don't know the answer to that actually. I don't know
because
why
I saw
they
you
do it.
use it, but like when you were using it, it was like a color here, a color there,
Yeah.
like just and just sort of like the way a vocalist would do like a little bit of like a murki, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't. I didn't feel that bechani from your playing. Because I felt you were using it very like strategically, whereas I feel like no matter any time that they're still like on a note, they're just gonna just keep shaking their hands.
I don't know what the reasoning is, honestly. I think Western music in general, when it comes to Western classical, there is the use of vibrato, at least with violin, of course, and vocals as well. Like opera is all vibrato.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the reason, but they do use it a lot. And
Yeah.
but you know, like that's something also that's very considered older music now. Like all the new music now is very like weird. And like the post-tonal stuff, it's very atonal, and some violin stuff's like very dissonant. And it's really going to a different realm of music, and it's really cool, but not as much as vibrato. But I don't know. I actually don't know what the reason is for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to hear this, like some of those pieces, because in the end, like I don't know, I'm very opinionated about music, but in the end, like I don't care what genre it is, you should just be able to say like, aha,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
That's the whole point.
That's my main
of music.
criteria. Like I don't care if it's hip hop, if it's like a film score, or if it's Ragdari or like Western classical. There's moments where you just go, ay hi, kya baat."
Yeah.
You know what I
It
mean?
just
Like
gets
you
it
just
out.
want to. That's what should come out.
Yeah.
So like yes, because somebody else has mentioned to me that like more like modern classical, Western classical music is getting weird,
Yeah.
and I don't know what that means. Like
Well, we don't listen to it, so
Yeah.
we would have to do some
we
research
got to
on
do
that.
some research on that. Because you're not the first. Like other people have mentioned that to me too.
It's hard to describe. Like you just have to
It's
listen
not
to it.
melodious, maybe.
Yeah, pretty much.
So then,
but-
like as a Punjabi, I'd be like "Sur swad nahi aega," or like what would I say?
I think that's
Like stuff
that's
doesn't
what-
resolve. You mean? Like,
That's what you'd
Yeah,
say.
like they
stuff-
don't come back to saw. And
yeah, it kind of just keeps on going, and then you're just like,
dude, if
just
somebody did that
happened?
in an alap, it'd kill us.
I-
Like touch saw, dude.
I recently went to like a concert, and like when it started, it was literally like the bows were screeching, like, and that was part of the performance.
Yeah, they
And
wrote that
like
down.
being like an Indian classical musician, you're just like, oh my god, what's going on? But there is a set theory and like a set kind of map of what they're doing, and it makes sense once the deeper you go into that. But that's like
Yeah.
within any type of music you go
Yeah,
into.
I'm sure that
it's
like,
like-
when a Western dude hears like
someone
Salamat Ali
hits-
doing a thon, they're like, what the
What is
what's
it?
going
Is
on?
it
And,
the car starting?
and then we're like, bada mushkil kam, and they're like, yeah, but it's weird.
I don't know if you've heard. There's actually this vocal coach on YouTube, and he's like been like reviewing.
Oh, dude, I've
like,
seen
those
some of
sorts
those
videos and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And he's like, his mind's just going like blown up and stuff. It's like, whoa.
Oh my god, I have to watch this.
Yeah, it's this whole series, and then like everybody's like the comments are just like blowing him up. They're like, dude, that's like Ustad Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan. Don't you know what's going on?
Yeah.
Have we got time for one more track?
Yeah, let's listen to another track. I think this last track is called Mirage, and it features your father.
Yes.
That's pretty cool, like father son.
Yeah.
Let's all take a listen right now. And we're back. That was Mirage. That was a wonderful composition. You guys should check out on the video on YouTube as well. It's got footage from both India and Pakistan. Raaginder, thank you very much for coming to our show. Like, you're welcome back anytime. It was an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
Why don't you let everybody know where they can find you?
You can find me anywhere on the internet pretty much nowadays. Just Google my name, Raaginder. Raaginder.com, YouTube, just type in Raaginder. I'm on Instagram, Raaginder, Twitter, and Raaginder, Facebook, Raaginder.
Nice. And then like, yeah, everything we listened to today is available like on iTunes and all the major music platforms. So everybody should like buy these albums, buy these tracks. Like,
Look it up.
Stream. Streaming is the new thing.
yeah.
But yeah, if you want to
trying
buy
to get
it,
you paid though, man.
more money in my pockets. More money in my pockets.
yeah. So help Raaginder out and buy these things. Yeah, and then like for Kamaljeet and I, you can find us on YouTube at Absolute Focus.
Wish we were streamlined.
Instagram at absolute_focus, and then patreon.com/absolute focus. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now, yeah, we'll do like an extended version. We'll continue the conversation, which is available only on the Absolute Focus podcast. So yeah, that track that we just listened to, like we were just saying that the video was filmed in India and Pakistan. So tell us a little bit about your like Pakistan trip. Like,
So Pakistan was like a trip of a lifetime for me. I went there because I'm part of this production called The Forgotten Empress, which is a dance theater show done from Kathak. And so it's a group about 8 of us. We have a tabla player, Salar, me, violin. We have a sarod player, a vocalist, dancer, and then we have a whole tech team. And we got invited to perform in 2-3 locations in Pakistan, in Karachi and Lahore.
yeah.
And then while we were out there, we did some of our own performances. Other than the performances, why it was so important to me was just because the history of Pakistan.
Right. I mean, like especially Lahore, like that's
Exactly.
Punjab, like that's our state.
Exactly.
Some gore divided it up.
Oh no, man, ripped away.
Exactly. And my dadi was from Lailpur, which is now Faisalabad.
Wow.
And all my mom's side of the family is from Peshawar.
Yeah.
So my ancestry does run deep in Pakistan. And I think just being in Lahore was just such an amazing feeling because at a place that used to be the Sikh capital of the world at one point, there aren't many Sikhs there anymore, if any. I only saw one other Sikh in Lahore my whole time I was there. But I will say this, the people there, every single day, once they saw me, they stopped me, they asked me for pictures, not because of like me playing violin, because I'm a Sardar.
Sardar, yeah.
I had a guy stop me, he bought me food, he bought me lunch. He's like, it's my duty to buy you food because
my
you're
goodness.
Guru Nanak Dev Ji's son. And like the people were just so kind.
Wow.
Like,
That makes me emotional, man.
It really
Yeah.
does.
My parents and my grandparents have similar stories. They weren't allowed to pay for their taxis.
yeah.
They would go to restaurants and they weren't allowed to pay
That's
because
amazing.
they were like the same thing. Tusi Guru Nanak Dev Ji de putra tusi ghar aaye nahi, tusi sade wapas aaye. Like, you know, they're
Yeah.
just super respectful. Like, which is, it's a shame because I don't know like if you've been exposed to this, but there's these artificial rifts between Indians and Pakistanis, and
Artificial, yeah.
it's completely artificial. Like the culture is the same, the languages are almost the same, like the music is the same, and the love is the same. Like, so like hearing you say like, you know, that they treated you like that is amazing.
Yeah, most of the rift that's created is just the governments and the
Yeah.
armies. The only problem I faced while I was in that country was the army stopping me at like a roadblock and them just asking me like 1,000 questions.
Yeah.
But the average citizen, probably the nicest people I've ever met. And like just genuine love. Like for someone that they've never met in their life, they just felt that they needed to go out and just either stop me for a picture because they wanted to take a picture, or just have a conversation with me and just talk to me just because I'm a Sikh.
Yeah.
And that was just amazing. And just talking to them in Punjabi. And
Yeah.
They've got amazing Punjabi.
yeah.
The Lahori accent is awesome. So,
Exactly.
I mean, Ustadi's from Lahore, so like
Yeah.
I get to experience, and then like a lot of his friends and musicians that we've got to hang around. Like I got to
Yeah.
spend some time with like a lot of time with Nusrat Fateh Khan Saab and his brother Farki, and like yeah, they're just Punjabi, man. It's like it's
Yeah.
the same thing. I think other people say like, oh, Pakistani log or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's not.
It's not.
It's just one Punjabi dude to another.
Yeah, you go to their. So I landed in Karachi, and then 2 days later I went to Lahore, You land there. Everyone's license plate, it just says Punjab, and it has like a wheat like a logo of like a wheat farm kind of
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's like it was just like I'm home. Like it's kind of felt like that, and it was funny. One of our play director, he's a white guy, so me and him went out to like the market, and he stopped and he was like, for some reason I feel like everyone's staring at you, and I'm like, for once, like in a South Asian country, the person's looking at the
Yeah.
Sardar and not the white guy.
Yeah.
I was like, now you know how I feel.
What were the audiences like?
Um, I I thought the audiences were great. I performed at a couple of venues. So in Lahore, first me and the dancer Farah Sheikh, um, we performed. We did our own thing at this Faz festival. Faz Muhammad Faz, who's a famous
Yeah,
poet.
yeah, yeah.
So there's a festival every year in his honor, and so we did a performance there, and the crowd was so warm. They were so receptive. Um, and just talking to the people there, the classical art is something that isn't valued that much, and just the arts in general, just because they've had many regime changes throughout their course of their history, and some regimes, completely blocked out art, and some regimes like promoted it, but because they've had this, uh, you know, so many systematic changes over the course of history, it doesn't have the strongest foundation
Yeah.
compared to India, which is like right next door. So a lot of the musicians that I got to meet that are local musicians there don't do music full time, or they wish they could. They have their other jobs, and a lot of them are also, they're not in the best financial conditions either.
Right.
But there's still a lot of talent, a lot of great tabla players.
Oh, yeah,
Punjab
tablas,
Gharana, it's
yes.
like, it's great. I had a chance to meet with a sitar player over there. His name is Sharoz, and he's amazing vocalist and amazing sitar player. There's just a lot of talent. I think it's
Yeah,
just,
there's some amazing artists there that don't get the exposure that they probably should.
yeah, I think it's just the culture, and there is a growth. There is an appreciation and
I've
growth.
been noticing like some new festivals and stuff pop up online, and like they're getting the social media thing down. And
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's all good, man.
Yeah, but I hope that definitely grows more, but I think the people in that country were great.
So there was something else, like, to switch gears for a second. Like I wanted to ask you about was covers.
Mm-hmm.
So you like, I first noticed that you had a lot of covers that were doing extremely well, like on social media and YouTube especially. So how did you get into covers?
So covers is kind of how my career started in violin. It was just something I did for fun initially. Like when I was 18 years old, I just recently bought a MacBook, and a lot of my friends, when they listened to me play, they couldn't really relate to it because not everyone knows about the classical art. They're just like,
Yeah.
Indian classical music. Why does this sound so sad? Like, I don't want to listen to that. Like, and I'm playing like coffee. It's not even sad. Like, come on. But like, it just sounds sad. So actually, I started in high school. I started recording like on Sony Acid Pro.
Yeah.
And like a Logitech mic. I started recording covers, just send it amongst my friends. And then I bought a MacBook, got on GarageBand, and like this Punjabi MC song, Morni, was out at that time. And I really loved the song. I had a Bhangra phase where I only listened to Bhangra. And I was like, yo, I want to do something to this song. And I recorded a cover, finished it in a day, posted a link online, sent it to my friends. And next day I wake up, it's been shared over like 2,000-3,000 times.
What platform is this?
It was like zshare.net.
Oh, okay.
It was just a file hosting website. It was like back in 2011. So it wasn't, so before I just initially did that, and then I was like, wow, like this is just a link and so many people have been downloading it. And then my dad's like, just start a YouTube channel, just start it. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to put it on YouTube, because I was like, I'm a classical musician, I don't want to do it. Put it on YouTube, it got like 100,000 views. And this is something I made in my like a room like the size of like this couch pretty much, and like a little wider. And on like $100 mic on GarageBand. And it went from that to me started making more covers because people liked it so much. And then
Yeah, because I noticed like the production value on some of the covers is huge. Like they're well produced. It's not just you acoustically playing on top of like a karaoke track or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I made it a point not to just like play the track itself. You know, like I wanted to do service to what I learned in the Indian classical field, and not just play the composition of the song itself, but add something new to it and make it fun,
take solos and stuff.
Exactly, take solos, all those kind of things. So eventually I started doing more and more, and then I started focusing more on original music from that point onwards. But I still like doing covers. When I perform live, I'll pop out a cover or two, and people love it.
So we've done a couple. I mean, they were basically acoustic, but they're probably they do the best for us.
Yeah.
We did a Game of Thrones cover.
People loved it and also hated it.
Yeah. So what I like initially, it was just a friend of ours just said like, can you give me I want a Game of Thrones cover.
And we're like, yeah, all right.
And I was like, okay, we'll record it and send it to you. And then I was like, you know what, we'll just put it up on YouTube. And I was like, but wait, if you put it up on YouTube, then like you're a Shivaji student, you shouldn't like just do that, right? Like I was like, take one of his Pahadi guts and like get into a Raag and then get to Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Coming out of nowhere.
Yeah. And then she's like, so she did it that way, right? I think you went to like Pahadi to Padvi to Game of Thrones. Something like that. I can't remember. And like, dude, the comments are like, this is
this is clickbait. This isn't even Game of Thrones.
Yeah, this isn't even Game of Thrones. And then the other one's like,
in the description, it clearly says.
And then they're like, the defenders came out and they were like, you moron, it starts at 126. And then like they just start arguing, and the thing like blew up because like there's like half of the people are like, this doesn't even have Game of Thrones in it, and then the other guys are like calling them stupid and like, it's right here. It's
man.
Sick. And then at first I was like, am I supposed to delete these negative comments? But then it turns out like that was good for it.
Yeah.
Then we did like Stranger Things.
Oh yeah.
And then like 2 online like news organizations in India picked it up.
I don't know how.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then you think sometimes you're like, and then I played Japtal in Raag Bageshri and like,
no one cared.
No, 100%. I like that's one thing that's kind of dangerous about covers, because I love doing covers, but at the same time, I don't want to be just the guy that does covers, you know? Because at one point I started feeling that people only listen to my covers and they didn't listen to any of my original music. Covers are great and all, but
I think the difference with you is that you made them yours.
Yeah,
like they weren't just you like playing, like I said, playing on top of like the music. Like you downloaded an instrumental version of some other song and then you just play on top of it. Like you made them yours. Like the production was all yours, right? And the videos and then you had great collaborators, right? You did a bunch with Rashi.
Yeah, that one was like, I was not expecting that one. That was like, I hadn't done a cover in so long, and they were like, hey, do you want to do this? I'm like, sure. I was like, all right, let's do this. And it was me, Rashi, Vidya Vox, and Ricky. And I think this was before Vidya was like what she is now. And we had just done it, and I finished the track in about like a couple hours, sent it through, posted a video, just did the regular push thing. A couple of days it gathered like a couple million views, and I'm like, man, why can't my original stuff do that?
Yeah, but I think I mean, we just got to find that right balance. Yeah.
But I've come to realize it's more like the original stuff for me is kind of me. It's more for me than it's for the. It's of course you want to put your music out for the people, but it also gives me a sense of satisfaction that I'm able to create something that I can call my own as well, you know? Even though the covers, I still add my own element to it, I do feel like the creating your own music, that's going to stand forever and it's yours, you know? And so I'm not like, I know as long as I keep on doing it, they'll keep on growing, but covers is a great way just to, you know, let your creativity out of something you're feeling at the moment, and great way to get views too.
I think we've had a great chat, right?
Yeah.
Like, I really enjoyed it, and like I said, you're welcome back anytime.
Yes.
Thanks everybody for listening. Thank you, Raaginder.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to hit the subscribe button.